Top 10 Things to Do in Jongju, South Korea. Full of amazing old tombs, temples, burial mounds, and rock carvings, South Korea's Jongju fully earns its nickname as the Museum Without Walls, and will astound visitors with all its amazing tourist attractions. As it was once the capital of Silla, an ancient kingdom on the Korean peninsula, many of its monuments date back over 1,000 years, and one of the best things to do in Jongju is exploring its impressive architecture and old buildings that can be seen around town. 10. Busan Lake. Surrounded by fancy hotels, shops, and restaurants as well as extensive parks and gardens, the human-made Busan Lake is where many people in Jongju come to relax and unwind. Lying just 5 kilometers from the center of the city, Busan Lake has lots of lovely walks and cycle rides that you can do around the lake. You can even go boating on its tranquil waters or enjoy a round of golf at one of its resorts. While Busan Lake is very picturesque and peaceful at any time of year, it is particularly popular to visit during the summer months or in spring when the cherry blossoms are in bloom. 9. Jongju National Park. Established all the way back in 1968, Jongju is unique among the country's national parks as it is the only one that is dedicated to preserving, protecting, and promoting the wealth of historical sites that lie within it. This means that while some sections of the national park are to be found surrounding Jongju, others are actually located right in the center of the city itself. As such, you may unwittingly find yourself in the national park without even knowing it when visiting one of the breathtaking burial mounds, temples, or tombs that are scattered around town. 8. Dairyyoungwon Burial Mound. One of the most popular tourist destinations in Jongju, the Dairyyoungwon Burial Mound complex lies in the center of the city and encompasses 30 royal tombs that date back to the times of the Silla Kingdom. As some of them reach over 20 meters in height, you can hardly fail to notice the tombs while wandering around town. Besides taking a peaceful stroll around the complex, you can actually venture inside Cheon Machong tomb, the most famous of the mounds, to take a peek at some of the many artifacts that were excavated from the site. 7. Jongju National Museum. Widely considered to be one of the best museums in the country, Jongju National Museum is the place to go if you want to learn all there is to know about the Silla Kingdom and the rise of civilization in South Korea. Located right next to the Dairyyoungwon Burial Mound complex, its various buildings are packed full of informative and interesting exhibitions and displays, with lots of dazzling jewelry, age-old weaponry, and important religious works on show. Among its many wonders, the undoubted highlight is the 5th-century gold crown of Gyeomgancheon, which shimmers and shines and is so intricately designed and decorated. With a number of stupas, sculptures, and statues scattered around the museum's buildings and grounds, one could easily spend a whole afternoon or more exploring all the delights that Jongju National Museum has to offer. 6. Yangdong Folk Village. Full of beautiful old houses and buildings that date back to the Joseon era, Yangdong Folk Village is simply marvelous to wander around. Built in the traditional Joseon dynasty architectural style, its cluster of buildings are very picturesque to behold, with lush gardens all around them. The vast majority of them are still lived in to this day. Although it is quite hard to reach the village, as it lies some 20 kilometers to the north of Jongju, it is well worth the effort if you want to experience traditional ways of life in an authentic setting. 5. Cheon Observatory. Although it is not all that impressive to gaze upon, Cheon's significance is without compare. It is remarkably the oldest surviving astronomical observatory in not only the whole of Asia but possibly even the world. Said to have been built out of 365 stones, one for each day of the year, Cheon Observatory was used for centuries by astronomers, who came to gaze out at the stars and planets above. It is particularly worthwhile stopping by in the evening when the observatory is spectacularly lit up, and its tower stands out against the night sky. 4. Sukgorum. Designated a national treasure in 1962, Sukgorum is one of the nation's most important historical, cultural, and religious sites. Part of the Bulguksa temple complex, the Sukgorum Grotto, as it is commonly known, is nestled away on the slopes of Mount Tohamsan overlooking the East Sea off in the distance. Completed in 774 AD, the grotto houses one of the finest examples of Asian art in the shape of its breathtaking Buddha sculpture. The deity is said to look over and protect South Korea. While the art and architecture are astounding, the magnificent mountain scenery is no less alluring, and the grotto is the perfect spot for some quiet contemplation and meditation. 3. Cheon Machong Tomb. Meaning, Sky Horse. Cheon Machong is so named because a spectacular painting of a white horse was unearthed when the tomb was excavated in 1973. While these offered up a fascinating look at society in the Silla kingdom, they unfortunately didn't shed any light on which king was buried in the mound. Believed to date to the 5th century, Cheon Machong is the only tomb that you can enter in the Dairyyoungwon burial mound complex, and it is well worth doing so if you have the opportunity. Inside are lots of interesting artifacts for you to check out, as well as the wooden coffin and royal accessories in which the king himself was buried. 2. Anubyeong Pond. Created in 674 AD by King Munmu to celebrate the unification of the Korean peninsula under Silla rule, the human-made Anubyeong Pond is now one of the most popular tourist attractions in the city and is a part of Jongju National Park. Surrounded by beautiful gardens and wonderfully reconstructed pavilions and palaces, Anubyeong Pond certainly makes for a fine sight and is best viewed at night when the grounds are so magically illuminated. 1. Bulguksa Temple. Lying on the slopes of Mount Tohamsan, Bulguksa Temple is an absolute masterpiece of Buddhist art and architecture. Built in the 8th century, the temple boasts some astounding stone pagodas and statues of the Buddha, and 7 of the country's national treasures are to be found scattered around its complex. Perfectly at harmony with the majestic mountain scenery all around it, the temple's many courtyards and gardens are mesmerizing to wander around, with beautiful architecture on show wherever you look. The highlight of many people's visit to Jongju, no trip to the city can be complete without stopping by this fantastic old temple, which is remarkably still in use over 1,000 years after it was built.